Welcome everyone to our Airsoft office hours. Like Liz mentioned, this is a second part of our Enhancing Enterprise Dashboards series, and this is on advanced widget and dashboard properties. And so I'm Matt Wakulczyk. I'm in the technical sales department here, and I'll be taking you through this today. So to start, I want to look at the advanced dashboard and widget settings menus and some of the different features that you can use to enhance your dashboards. An important thing to note is these settings menus have a lot of different options and features, with the majority of them being more related to aesthetics and display, styling, and that kind of thing for the different looks you can create on a dashboard. And so here at Airsoft, I create a lot of dashboards in the technical sales department for clients, for demoing and that kind of thing. And so I use a lot of these features on a daily basis. And so what you see here is some of the features that I use when I create dashboards, and I would think would be helpful for other users as well. So just to note that we're not going to go through every single setting. Obviously there's a lot of settings and features, but here are a few that I've picked. So we'll start with setting fixed facility for dashboards and creating collapsible sections within dashboards. And then we'll move on to the widget setting menu and look at creating collapsible widgets and saving the collapsible state of the widget, and creating maximizable widgets. And a lot of these features also have to do with screen real estate. You know, so that's a kind of a new kind of important factor on some of these things, especially when creating dashboards. You know, how much screen space do you have? What do you need to see? Do you have enough room to show it? And that kind of thing. So these features can help you maximize your screen real estate and use it to its fullest potential. And at the end, we'll just look at a few different options in the advanced time series widget specifically that again help display the widget more prominently. So this is what the advanced dashboard setting menu looks like. I just want to give you a quick look so you know what we're looking at. It has a few different sections. So for instance, there's dashboard properties on the left here. And then you can alter the sections or rows of the dashboard on the right. And there's also a section at the bottom for columns, and we'll look at this when we get into Enterprise. But like I said, there's a lot of different options and features here. I encourage you to try these out, but I'll show you the ones that I use and recommend. So first we'll start with setting a fixed facility for a dashboard. So in EQuIS Enterprise, there's a facility filter that is included on dashboards, so you can filter between facilities. And when you set a fixed facility, you noticed where this facility filter used to be, there's no longer anything here because it's fixed to one facility. So this means it will only show that facility's data, and every time you open the dashboard, it's automatically set to that facility, so you don't have to worry about filtering or clearing your facility filter. And so there's a specific syntax for this in the advanced settings menu, and it looks like this. And this is entered into the URL field, and this is what I've displayed down here. There's a URL field, and for instance, you have this syntax with the facility ID defined. And so this dashboard is set for one facility. Next, we'll look at collapsible sections. This is also a really useful feature. You can take large, complex dashboards, as you see on the left, and create basically, you know, these collapsible sections that makes the dashboard much more navigable and user-friendly, and also lets you split up the data in a more logical way. You know, data scientists and project managers and regulators might all want to see different things. So you could create different dashboards, or you could create different sections within a dashboard that collapse so you can see each of the different sections that you want to see. Then we'll look at the advanced widget settings menu. Again, this is just a little screenshot of it just to give you an idea of what it looks like, and we'll see it here in a few minutes. But again, a lot of different settings in this advanced menu, and I'm going to show you a few of the ones like creating collapsible widgets that are very useful when creating dashboards. So saving collapsed states and creating collapsible widgets. For instance, on the left is a group of 3 reporting widgets. We call them easy view widgets. And if I would create them as collapsible and savable, you can open and load a dashboard that takes up a dramatic amount of less space. So you can, and then, if you need to see any of these more specifically, you can expand them, uncollapse them and run the report or look at the settings or that kind of thing. But again, going from this much real estate to this much real estate is a big difference. And maximizing widgets. So again, with screen real estate, sometimes you want to add things into a dashboard, into a small space that maybe don't quite fit. You can actually, there's a setting for these widgets where you can maximize them. So you could take a small widget like this on the left that's put into a small section of the dashboard but actually contains a lot of data. And you don't have to worry about displaying it all in this small piece of dashboard real estate. You can add the maximizable option, and then with one click you can view everything within the widget in an enlarged view, but you're still within the same dashboard. It's just a pop-up window that helps you view the data. Again, getting more usable space into a dashboard. And the last thing, I'll just show you a few little tricks with the advanced time series properties. On the left is basically a default time series chart with all the settings and things enabled, and you can see with the different parts and pieces, the legend and the navigator and the date ranges and things like that, can kind of start to take up, again, a lot of real estate within this widget. But you can change some of these settings and take away some of these things if you don't like them or need them or just want to see a bigger graph and create something that looks like this. So much more of the widget is actually used for graphing than some of these other features. So some of these aren't the most flashy settings, but I think they're actually useful and practical when creating dashboards. Okay, so from there I think I'll hop into the demonstration, and here we go. So here's EQuIS Enterprise Dashboard that I've set up for this office hour to show you some of these different options. So we'll start by navigating to the Advanced Properties menu for dashboards. So the way to get into the Advanced Properties menus for widgets or dashboards is to go into the Editing property panel here by clicking the gear icon. So this brings up your dashboard editor, and within this dashboard editor, if you can actually scroll your mouse to the bottom left, and you'll see, I'll try to do it slow, and a little advanced button pops up here, and this is the advanced settings tab. And so we kind of hid it on purpose here. If users don't know it's there, they don't have to come in and, mess up the display of something or make a section disappear on accident by changing styling or something. But, you can undo all that, but it's more for if anyone needs it and asks for it, it's here. But we generally just created it in this location for that reason. So you open it up and you'll notice this looks like the advanced dashboard setting menu we saw earlier. And again, you have dashboard properties on the left here. You have section properties on the right. And if I scroll down, there's actually some properties for the different columns within the sections too. And an important thing to note about this property screen is every time you change a property, you have to, whether it's for dashboards or sections or columns, you have to hit this update button. And so it's the same here as well as for the sections as well as for the columns. And that's just basically like the save button. So it's not going to save anything until you tell it to. So to start, let's look at setting a fixed facility for a dashboard. So I've got a little cheat sheet here because I've already got my facility ID for this database. But basically you come to the URL field here and you're going to enter that syntax that I mentioned earlier. And so it's the and f equals and facility ID. So this is a facility ID in my database right now. So here, if I enter that and I scroll down and click update, again, this is like the save button. Now it has updated the dashboard. And so for instance, if I return to my dashboard now, you'll notice that the facility filter in the top right here has disappeared. And so it's set to this one facility that I defined. And it'll show, and the counter side to that is it'll only show data for that facility. So if you have a dashboard that's comprised of data and widgets that from many different facilities, you can't really, this feature wouldn't really work unless you wanted to just show data from one facility. Okay, so let's hop back into the advanced settings menu. Again, opening up the dashboard editor, scrolling down to the left until I get the advanced properties menu. And so I actually do have data from several facilities, so I'm actually just going to delete that for now. And again, if I delete it, I need to come down and update to save. And we're back to where we started. So next thing I want to show you is creating collapsible sections. So here on the right is the sections editor section here. And this one is a little, there's a few little tricks here as well. So to start, you have to select which section you want to edit. So if I select my section 1, you notice section 1 is here. And I want to come to this collapsible option. And so I'm just going to check this collapsible checkbox. And again, with all of these, you have to scroll down after you make these edits and update the section. So I'll update that section and it is saved. So I can do the same with section 2. I want to select my section 2. I want to check my collapsible option and I want to scroll down and update. And lastly, I'll do the third section, select, check collapsible, move down to update. So now we've updated all of our sections with this collapsible feature. So let's return to our dashboard and check out what it did. And so here you can notice now that I've removed that facility syntax there where I defined a set facility, you'll see the facility filter again. So again, clicking on this, a quick way to look at your facility IDs if you're in Enterprise is you can come into this facility filter. If you come into the table view and for instance go in to a folder, it'll actually tell you the facility IDs right here. So that's just a quick shortcut I use. Nice and easy to find those things. But I'm going to clear this for now. And so now you see I have the different sections, section 1, 2, 3, and by creating them as collapsible like I just did, a little button pops up on the right side here. And so if you click this, this is how you can actually collapse the entire section and all of the widgets within that section. So then if I'm only interested in one of these sections, I can expand them and look at it individually. Okay, so from here I want to look at doing a similar feature for the widgets themselves. So again, here's an example of a few reporting widgets on the left, and then this one on the right, which I'm going to edit. So again, I will come up to the properties menu of the widget, open the widget editor, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to scroll slowly down to the left until I get to my advanced menu. So I click on that and it opens it up. So here's the advanced properties menu we saw a picture of earlier. And again, it has many different features in here, a lot of display and styling and that kind of thing. So the few features I want to show here are creating the collapsible widget and then saving that state. So if I scroll down a little bit, you can see there's a lot of styling and class options and display options. But what I want to go to down is behavior. So in this section, again, there's a collapsible option. So if I check this collapsible box, that's going to make my widget collapsible. And then actually if I scroll back up to the top, you notice some of these top options. And so you have the Save Collapse State option. So if I check this box along with the collapsible box, I can actually collapse the widget and save it in that state. So every time I load the dashboard, it's saved in that collapsible state. And again, if you need to look into it more, you can uncollapse it, but it's a better way to fit more things into a dashboard more efficiently. So I'm going to save the properties here. And again, save the widget. And sometimes these settings require that you refresh your dashboard so they show up. So you notice there's a collapsible button will show up here in the toolbar pane when you add it. I just did, but it's not showing. So if I actually refresh my dashboard, you can now see this little collapsible button has appeared. And so you can use this, you can click on it and you collapse it. And so from here, if I would collapse that and even refresh the dashboard again, you'll notice it stays in this collapsed state. So using these features, again, you can put all three of these reporting widgets into a very small piece of real estate. So for instance, another trick I like to use when creating dashboards, especially when I'm going to have a lot of similar widgets, for instance, these reporting widgets or charting widgets, if I want them all to have the same kind of properties, I do this, I do one first like this. For instance, I create the collapsible widget and the save collapse state. And the next trick is to actually right-click on the widget and clone it. And cloning it gives it these same properties. So when I do that, you can see it creates another widget that's already has the same properties as the first widget. And so I could do it one more time. And so you can see now we've taken these three reporting widgets, I've taken up this much room and created these three widgets, which is, a fraction of the space. And again, you can uncollapse these, run the reports, go into the settings the same as you would the other reports, but changing from this much space to this much. Okay, next thing I want to show, if I scroll down to our next section, is the maximizable feature. So sometimes in dashboards, I like to put a lot of things like maps together, but if you start adding, a bunch of columns, it can get kind of tight and small, but you still maybe want all this data here. So there's another option for maximizing a widget. So for instance, the map widget comes with this option by default. And I really like this option because here's a perfect example of putting several maps beside each other, but they are, kind of small individually. So you can use this maximize button, and again, one click and get, a much better view of this map and your facility and this kind of thing. So again, doesn't have to take up necessarily a lot of space on the dashboard if you want to see it, well. It just takes one click to maximize these. Okay, so for instance, the EIA widget, which I have here, it's a pretty big widget. It has a lot of information in it, and if you really want to see it all on a dashboard, it could take up a lot of room. And also it is displaying, for instance, the first 10 of these EIAs. So it's maybe a little bit longer than I want it to be, height-wise, and there's a lot of data when I have to go down and scroll over and look at it like this. So this widget does not have the maximize option enabled. So for instance, we can come into the properties and again go into the advanced properties of this widget. And you'll see at the top there is a maximizable option. And so if I check this, it adds that maximizable feature to the widget. And so you can put small widgets with a lot of data, into small spaces on a dashboard, and one click to expand and view them. And another thing I mentioned that's helpful in this is you can change, the height and width of these if you want. So for instance, that was a little long for me. It's by default displaying the first 10 EIAs. But maybe I want it to fall closer in line with those mapping widgets I have beside it. So for instance, I'll put maybe an option of 600. And so this is by pixels. This can be a little bit of trial and error sometimes for sizing, but I think about 600 should be good. So if I save this and save the widget, you notice again, I updated the widget, but sometimes these things require a dashboard refresh. So if I refresh my dashboard and scroll down, you'll now notice the EIA widget is set to the height I want it to be set at, and it also has this maximizable option. So I can take this much space in the actual dashboard, and if I want to see this data in more detail, I can one-click maximize it, and I have all the data here to display. So again, taking advantage of this space and using it to its fullest potential. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to show were just a few little tricks with the time series chart. And so we do have another office hour on more advanced settings and in the high charts and time series advanced settings, but I just wanted to give you a few little tips to maybe help, like I said, use more of this widget to see the graph itself. So here I have two time series widgets that are both identical, and so I'll edit this one on the right, and so you can see the difference afterwards. So for this, we're going to go into the properties section. And this is a little different. For this, we're just going to simply go to the advanced tab in the time series chart. So if I click on the advanced tab, it gives me basically a high charts view here. And there's a lot of different options you can do, changing axes, changing your titles, how your date time is displayed and things like that on the x-axis. But the main settings I want to just look at that are pretty easy to change are right here. So the scroll bar, for instance, the legend you can actually alter in the chart settings here, show legend, or in the advanced settings. Here you can enable or disable a legend. And as well as the range selector and the navigator. So these are all the things that I mentioned, like the choosing the date, range selector, or navigating and zooming in into these sections. Some of those tools take up a little more space than maybe you'd like them to. So for instance, if I would come into scroll bar and change this to false instead of true, that will actually take away the scroll bar from display. And if I do the same thing with the range selector, enabled false, and for instance the navigator enabled false. Let's go ahead and see what just these three things do. And this is just, again, little tricks that I found in creating widgets and dashboards that can help give you a better view of the data. So if I save these features, these three things that I've changed to false, now you can see the difference. I mean, here on the left, you have, again, the navigator at the bottom, the range selector up here, and these kinds of things. So when I remove those, look how big the graph becomes within this widget. you take out all these extra things. You can still come in and download, this data using the context menu. You can also take this context menu away, similar property, just changing from true to false. But I like to have this here because it is useful to download data if you need it. But again, if you have a lot of these time series charts beside one another, changing these all to something to show more of the graph and more of the data than some of these other tools that you might not need, again, can just help enhance your dashboard. Okay, so I think that was about what I wanted to show you. So again, the different things we just showed: setting fixed facilities, navigating to the menus, creating your collapsible sections and widgets, and creating more room in the time series widget for the chart, that kind of thing. And for more information, again, I mentioned we had another office hours on advanced time series charts that we have a link to here. And we also have an advanced user workshop coming up in June, and that is in Boston. And those are really good workshops for advanced user customization. They're driven by clients and user input, so it becomes a lot more user-oriented workshop. And I think that does it for me.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. We got a couple questions that came in during the session.
Okay.
The first one is from Kathy, and she asks, can we switch the sections, like section 1, section 2, section 3, to a different order in the properties or in the advanced settings menu within the dashboard advanced editor?
I believe you can. I will probably have to double check that, though.
Okay.
I know, yeah, I think I have done that before, but let me confirm that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Trying to respond while I field these questions. Okay, can you enter a facility group ID into the URL for setting that facility?
I don't believe it's set up for facility groups yet. Those IDs all have that negative number. I would have to, again, probably try that and double check just to make sure. A lot of these advanced settings, like I said, I don't use on a regular basis. So I showed you a lot of the ones I do use on a regular basis, but I can definitely look into that.
Okay. Can the section title font color be controlled in the advanced section? From Kevin.
Yep, that has to do with your styling and font properties. So I believe that you can do that in there as well.
Okay. If a section is collapsed and it's the first time entering a dashboard, so it's not in the cache, is the data pulled for collapsed sections? From Kathleen.
So the collapsed sections within the dashboard are a little bit different. You can't save those collapsible states. So actually when you open it, it'll show everything, but you can collapse them from there. So it will load all of those sections when you open the dashboard. And the same thing with the widgets. If you have collapsed widgets, it's still going to load those reports or whatever you have back there in the background. So when you do uncollapse it, it's there to display. It doesn't have to load, as you collapse it or uncollapse it.
Okay. Thank you. Kathleen also asks, is there any third-party documentation or from EQuIS or from ERSOFT rather on the various advanced options?
So, not really. We need to get with our red team on giving more documentation on these types of things. Again, it was by design to kind of keep it away from the casual user because, like I mentioned, you can get into some little bit of trouble if you're messing with the styling and options there. Nothing you can't undo, but it's meant to be more of an advanced user menu.
All right. And Allison asks, when you maximize the map widget and you want to get out of it, you press the X, but doesn't that mean delete? I think when you hover over it, it says delete, and it would be nice if that was changed so that it said close.
Okay, that's a good question. It's really just when you click that maximize button, it pops up kind of a new window. So that's when you click the X, you're just closing that new window. You're not deleting the widget or anything. But if it does say delete, yes, we can get that changed.
Okay, we'll go ahead and submit that as a feature request.
Mm-hmm.
Kathleen asked when the high charts office hour was, and I went ahead and chatted that out to everyone. So you should have that in the chat window. That was actually one that happened in 2015. We also have an EQuIS Academy scheduled for this fall coming up that'll get more into high charts as well. And Kathleen asks on the section flip, please provide the answer to all on office hours. Yes, absolutely. We sure will.
Yep. Yep.
And Carl says on question number 1, which I think is that section flip, it's only available to be configured through SQL Server Management Studio, as far as he knows.
Okay.
So we can find out for sure.
We'll look into that, but that's good input.
All right. And Kathleen added in terms of the documentation for the advanced bit that it could be documentation available just for admins. That will be okay with her. I get it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Wonderful. So if you have any questions, future topic suggestions, or would like to sign up for future office hours, you can email us at officehours@airsoft.com. Thanks everyone for attending, and thanks again, Matt. We hope to see you at the next office hour.
Thanks.